The massive Zelnarai mothership materialized over Geneva at precisely 0900 hours on humanity's first contact day. Its crystalline surface caught the morning light, fracturing it into rainbow patterns across the city below. For 6 breathless hours the world waited. News anchors whispered speculation. Military leaders stood by with sweaty fingers on triggers they knew were useless. Religious leaders called for prayer or proclaimed apocalypse, depending on their doctrine. No one expected what happened next. When the ship finally opened, the delegation that emerged wasn't armed with death rays or enlightenment, just clipboards and scanning devices. The towering insectoid ambassadors moved with efficient, almost mechanical precision, their compound eyes betraying nothing but mild disappointment as they surveyed the assembled human representatives. Class D minor species, announced the lead, Zelnarai, Ambassador Tizek, his translator device rendering his clicks and whistles into flat, emotionless English, remarkable only for surviving on a planet with such primitive environmental regulation. He made a gesture that might have been dismissive or simply functional. "We welcome Earth to the Galactic Confederation. You may submit formal requests for technological assistance after your species completes basic diplomatic orientation." Dr. Eleanor Chen, a xenobiologist hastily pulled from her university position to advise the diplomatic team, stood frozen at the back of the reception hall. The aliens had dismissed humanity in less time than it took to order coffee. Not destroyed, not uplifted, just catalogued and filed away. The greatest moment in human history had ended with a bureaucratic designation. During the tense diplomatic reception that followed, Eleanor noticed something the politicians and military observers missed. When a waiter accidentally dropped a tray of champagne flutes, Ambassador Tizek's antennae flattened against his carapace momentarily. The sound sensitivity was obvious to her trained eye, perhaps a vulnerability. "Interesting frequency response," she murmured, discreetly recording the incident on her tablet. While world leaders negotiated preliminary technological exchanges, Eleanor experimented by creating subtle sonic patterns from her device, calibrated to frequencies just beyond human hearing. She noticed Tizek growing increasingly uncomfortable. During their conversations, it was this small advantage that earned her assignment to the Galactic Embassy, established in a repurposed UN building. Her colleagues assumed it was her academic credentials, but Eleanor knew better. She had demonstrated the one thing humans would need most, the ability to find leverage where none seemed to exist. 3 months into her assignment, working late, while the alien delegation attended a concert at Lincoln Center, Eleanor discovered something troubling in the Confederation's species registry. Unlike other Class D species, the Volscic of Rigel 4, the aquatic Marenti, even the fungal collective of Tau Ceti, humanity was marked with a secondary classification: potential instability risk. More disturbing still, Earth was deliberately excluded from technological advancement programs that similar civilizations received automatically. The quarantine was subtle, but unmistakable. We weren't being helped. We were being contained. When she confronted Ambassador Tizek the following day, his patronizing reassurance that humans were simply not ready might have convinced her colleagues. But Eleanor had studied his species' communicative tics. The nervous mandible click that accompanied his words wasn't reassurance. Her research had identified it as fear. "What exactly about us frightens you, Ambassador?" she asked quietly. Tizek's compound eyes reflected her image back fractured into 100 tiny Eleanors. "Nothing that need concern you, Dr. Chen. Your species has much to learn before joining galactic society properly." Across the city, in a military rehabilitation center, Colonel James Morrow struggled through another physical therapy session. The experimental prosthetic arm the Confederation had generously provided after a shuttle accident still rejected integration with his nervous system. The pain was excruciating, but he pushed through it, determined to regain function. "You're making remarkable progress," his Zelnarai doctor commented, making notes on a translucent tablet. "Most species require significantly longer adaptation periods for xenotechnology integration." Morrow grunted, lifting a weight with the gleaming metal appendage. "Humans adapt. It's what we do." What he didn't mention was that the arm had started working better after he'd secretly modified its neural interface, something the aliens had insisted was impossible for a primitive species to accomplish. That night, leveraging his still valid security credentials and the arm's surprising ability to interface with alien systems, Morrow infiltrated a Confederation outpost recently established on Europa. He had expected to find scientific research equipment. Instead, he discovered weapon systems far beyond anything revealed to Earth governments and a disturbing star map marking Earth with a containment protocol designation. His narrow escape left 3 Confederation security officers dead, an incident officially blamed on equipment malfunction. But as Morrow's stolen shuttle limped back toward Earth, the Confederation Security Council convened an emergency session to address what they termed the human problem. Humanity had been overlooked, but not for much longer. 5 years after first contact, the gleaming Confederation technology that had once seemed miraculous had become commonplace on Earth. Self-driving vehicles guided by quantum positioning systems, medical nanites that eliminated cancer and extended human lifespans, clean energy cells that had rendered fossil fuels obsolete overnight. But across the galaxy, something unexpected was happening. Humans were becoming an unsettling curiosity. Engineer Sarah Way wiped acidic sweat from her brow as she completed the maintenance checklist on Proxima 6's atmospheric regulation system. The mining colony's toxic environment required triple containment protocols, but the pay was worth it. 6 months here equaled 5 years' salary on Earth. Efficiency exceeds expected parameters by 12.4%, commented her Zelneri supervisor, technician-grade Zexnar. How is this possible? Sarah shrugged. I tweaked the recycling subsystem. The original configuration wasted energy during the compression cycle. Zexnar's antennae twitched. The system was designed by Axoni engineers with 12,000 years of atmospheric manipulation expertise. Maybe they overthought it, Sarah replied, closing her toolkit. Sometimes simple works better. The facility's warning klaxons cut off further. Conversation. The mine's automated excavator had struck an unexpected gas pocket. Sarah felt the tremor through the deck plates before the emergency announcement blared through speakers. Containment breach in Section 8. Emergency protocols activated. The next 40 seconds became chaos. Proxima 6's atmosphere was highly corrosive to most life forms, including the 17 alien workers who followed their emergency training exactly as specified, making their way to designated shelters that catastrophically failed when secondary tremors collapsed access corridors. Sarah didn't follow protocol. As toxic gas flooded through ruptured seals, she sprinted the opposite direction, toward the maintenance bay. Her mind racing faster than her feet, she grabbed components from 3 different species repair kits, cannibalized her own environmental suit's filtration system, and hot-wired incompatible technologies together with tools never designed for such integration. Security cameras recorded her frantic work, footage that would later be classified at the highest levels of Confederation security. In 28 minutes, she had constructed an emergency shelter using components that, according to Confederation engineering textbooks, should have exploded when connected. When the Confederation rescue team arrived expecting only corpses, they found Sarah calmly playing solitaire with maintenance cards inside her improvised shelter. More disturbing to the Zelneri scientists, she'd made improvements to their atmospheric filtration systems. The bypass valve was inefficient, she explained, as if it were obvious. I rerouted it through the thermal exchanger. Sarah became an overnight celebrity on human news networks, lauded as the miracle of Proxima 6. But in classified Confederation records, she became Anomaly 1, the first documented case of what would soon become a pattern. Across 12 worlds, humans were demonstrating disturbing adaptability. Confederation specialists with centuries of focused training found themselves outperformed by humans who simply tried things differently. On New Mars, a human agricultural team increased crop yields 300% by intentionally introducing what they called beneficial stress factors, an approach that contradicted 4,000 years of Confederation agricultural science. On the Centauri wormhole, Station. A human maintenance crew solved gravitational fluctuations by reversing the polarity of stabilization fields. A solution so counterintuitive the station's designer called it technologically impossible right until the moment it worked. In her high-clearance office at the Galactic Embassy, Dr. Chen now had access to secure Confederation networks and a neural uplink implant illegally modified to bypass monitoring protocols. What she discovered in the Confederation's secure xenobiology database confirmed her suspicions. Human brains created neural pathways at rates 5 times faster than any known species when exposed to novel situations. What alien scientists dismissed as evolutionary inefficiency was humanity's greatest strength: unspecialized adaptability. While Confederation species evolved highly specialized capabilities over millions of years, humans remained generalists, problem solvers with unprecedented neuroplasticity. We could learn, adapt, and innovate at speeds that alarmed species who measured progress in centuries. With her illegal neural connection, Chen intercepted an emergency session of the Confederation Science Council. Earth's threat assessment had been upgraded from negligible to potential concern, the same designation given to a species called the Vran shortly before their mysterious extinction. The Confederation had noticed us at last, but not in the way we'd hoped. We weren't seen as allies or even competitors. We were seen as a threat. Geneva Plaza fell silent as Ambassador Tzek's amplified voice echoed across the gathered crowd. Viewscreens worldwide broadcast his imposing insectoid form, compound eyes gleaming under Earth's sun. By unanimous decision of the Confederation Council, Earth is being placed under developmental quarantine for your own protection, Tzek announced, mandibles clicking between phrases. No human may travel beyond Mars. All advanced technology transfers will cease immediately. A protective fleet will ensure compliance while your species achieves sufficient stability. The official explanation followed, something about cultural contamination concerns and developmental guidance protocols. Diplomatic language masking a simple truth: humanity was being contained. President Alvarez stepped forward, face carefully composed despite the diplomatic bombshell. Ambassador, we request clarification on specific violations that— This is not a negotiation, Tzek interrupted, his translator rendering his clicks with cold precision. The decision is final. The Confederation thanks Earth for its cooperation. Within hours, long-range telescopes confirmed the arrival of 12 Confederation corvettes, taking position around Earth's orbital lanes. The quarantine had begun. 300 meters beneath the ruins of Old Seattle, Colonel Morrow limped through a repurposed pre-war bunker. His prosthetic arm, now heavily modified with stolen Confederation tech, glowed faintly along neural connection points. Around a circular table sat his unlikely resistance team. Scientists dismissed from Confederation exchange programs, military personnel who'd witnessed concerning alien activities, government whistleblowers who'd recognized the pattern too late. It's not about protection, Morrow stated, projecting intercepted quantum-encrypted communications onto the central display. The Axoni, the crystalline species who run the real power structure, have designated us an evolutionary threat. Dr. Eliza Kamau, formerly Earth's leading xenolinguist before being unexpectedly retired from the diplomatic corps, pointed to symbolic patterns in the transmission. This classification dates back 3 years. They've been planning this containment since shortly after first contact. The bunker's security alert interrupted them. Someone was approaching through the abandoned maintenance tunnels. Someone using high-level Confederation override codes to bypass their security. Breach Protocol Alpha, Morrow ordered. Armed resistance members took position around the entrance. The massive blast door slowly opened to reveal a slight woman in a tattered Confederation embassy uniform. Dr. Eleanor Chen stood in the doorway, hands raised. Blood trickled from her temple where her neural implant had been forcibly removed. "I don't have much time," she said hoarsely. "They'll track the stolen data soon." She tossed a crystalline data core onto the table. Everything they didn't want us to know. The holographic display expanded, showing classified xenopsychology reports on humanity. Charts comparing human adaptability to Confederation standards. Psychological resilience scores off the measurement scales. Creativity metrics that frighten species who evolved through rigid conformity. They've been studying us like lab rats, Chen explained, as the team scrolled through thousands of secret files. What they classify as dangerous unpredictability, we recognize as creativity and determination. A final report appeared, the true reason for quarantine. Humanity's rapid neural adaptation threatens evolutionary stability in developing species. Containment essential until adaptive capacity can be neutralized. They're afraid we'll outthink them, Morrow realized, that we'll develop faster than they can control. The bunker's alarm blared again. On the surface, Confederation ships were detected entering Earth's atmosphere, heading directly for major technology centers. It's starting, Chen said grimly. They're not just quarantining us. They're coming to confiscate anything advanced we've developed on our own. On the main view screen, live feeds showed the first Confederation corvettes descending toward the Mars colony, where humanity's most advanced independent research facilities operated beyond immediate Earth oversight. No one expected what happened next. As the lead ship extended its docking tube toward the main habitat dome, its system suddenly crashed, screens flickering as a human-made virus penetrated its supposedly impenetrable defenses. In the confusion, the Mars Colonial Defense Force powered up weapons the Confederation didn't know they possessed. The first shots of the human resistance tore through the alien vessel's hull, a bright flash against the red Martian sky. The quarantine had become a war. The 17th Fleet of the Galactic Confederation emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. 600 warships arranged in perfect geometric formation, their hulls gleaming under the distant sun. On the command deck of the flagship Inevitable Order, Admiral Voxnara studied the tactical display with compound eyes that had witnessed 16 successful suppressions of rebellious worlds. "Begin standard pacification approach," he ordered, his exoskeleton clicking as he moved to the central command podium. Tactical simulations predict the human problem will be resolved within 6.2 standard cycles. The operation name appeared on screens throughout the fleet. Minor correction. The confidence it projected was absolute. 40 million kilometers away. Commander Maya Okafor stood on the bridge of the Defiance, a refitted mining vessel never designed for combat. Since the destruction of her family's transport during the initial Mars skirmish, she had emerged as the unlikely leader of Earth's makeshift defense. "They're deploying in Thessian formation," reported her tactical officer, studying readings from improvised sensor arrays. Textbook approach from their military protocols. Okafor's fleet consisted of retrofitted mining vessels, civilian transports hastily armed with experimental weapons, and a handful of ships built using stolen Confederation schematics. Their only advantage, the Confederation had no playbook for what came next. "Execute Operation Hornet's Nest," Okafor ordered. Across the system, human vessels that had been hiding dormant inside hollowed-out comets suddenly activated. The ice bodies they'd been concealed within fractured, creating both cover and kinetic projectiles. 3 Confederation cruisers, expecting enemy ships to maintain safe distance per standard doctrine, found themselves pelted with comet fragments, traveling at orbital velocities. "Impossible!" Admiral Voxnara exclaimed as the first cruiser's shields failed. Combat computers show a 99.8% probability they would maintain tactical withdrawal distance. Before the Confederation fleet could regroup, the Defiance executed a maneuver that the Admiral's tactical officer declared suicidal. The mining ship accelerated directly toward a Confederation battlecruiser, ejecting its fusion reactor core, moments before impact. The resulting explosion tore through both vessels. "They sacrificed an entire ship and crew to destroy one of ours," Voxnara whispered, mandibles clicking in agitation. "The efficiency calculation is negative. Why would they—" "Sir," interrupted his second-in-command, "human vessels are changing. Course toward the sun. On tactical displays, 30 human ships plunged toward an active solar flare, a navigational suicide by any rational standard. Confederation targeting systems predicted their destruction and diverted weapons elsewhere. But the human vessels didn't disintegrate. Their retrofitted shields, designed specifically for this maneuver, held just long enough. They emerged from the solar flare's radiation on trajectories the Confederation ships couldn't track, delivering devastating strikes against unprepared targets. In the Confederation Command Center, Admiral Voxenara watched in growing horror as his battle computers crashed, attempting to predict human maneuvers that appeared completely irrational until they succeeded. His methodical species couldn't comprehend sacrificing 20 ships to destroy 30, a Pyrrhic victory by their standards, but a trade humans willingly made. Meanwhile, floating in a hollowed-out asteroid dubbed the Nest, Dr. Chen led a collective of Earth's most brilliant hackers. Their discovery had changed the course of the war. Confederation quantum networks, while incredibly advanced, had never developed robust security because member species evolved with rigid honesty and predictable behavior patterns. They literally cannot conceive of someone lying to a computer, Chen explained, fingers dancing across neural interfaces. They have no concept of hacking because they have no evolutionary history of deception. The virus they unleashed, nicknamed Pandora, created cascading system failures across the Confederation network. Shields failed at critical moments. Navigation systems reported false data. For the first time in 40,000 years of galactic hegemony, the Confederation faced an enemy whose next move they could not predict. As the humans celebrated the capture of their first Confederation dreadnought with minimal casualties, they broadcast a simple message across enemy communication channels. We were never the threat, until you made us one. The converted cargo freighter Dandelion Seed drifted silently through the Kuiper Belt, its hull modified with salvaged Confederation stealth technology. Inside, 300 volunteer families huddled around holographic displays of distant star systems marked with glowing blue targeting reticles, their new homes. Captain Sofia Rodriguez moved through the passenger compartment, meeting the eyes of parents who had made an impossible choice. These families would likely never see Earth again. Their children would grow up under alien suns, carrying humanity's genetic heritage to distant worlds beyond Confederation control. Final preparations for jump, she announced. Operation Dandelion remains on schedule. The vessel was one of thousands, launched in complete secrecy under Colonel Morrow's audacious plan, scattering human settlements across the galaxy like seeds in the wind. Each ship carried volunteer families, frozen embryos, and comprehensive genetic banks, heading for inhabitable worlds beyond Confederation sensors. In the ship's small medical bay, Dr. Marcus Kim monitored the status of 5,000 frozen embryos, humanity's insurance policy. Viability remains at 99.8%, he reported. The new cryogenic method is holding. What he didn't add was that the method had been invented just 6 weeks earlier, after the Confederation cut off access to their advanced stasis technology. Humans had replicated and improved upon alien tech that had taken the Confederation centuries to develop. Just another reason they fear us, Rodriguez replied. The Dandelion Seed activated its experimental jump drive, vanishing from the solar system in a flash of twisted space-time. One more ember of humanity escaping the dying fire of Earth to ignite new flames across the galaxy. In the Confederation capital, Ambassador Tizek broke every protocol by physically pushing his way into the Supreme Council's emergency session. His compound eyes reflected terror as he projected human combat footage onto the central display, showing sacrifices, deceptions, and improvised solutions no Confederation tactical manual could predict. You fail to understand what we face, he chittered, mandibles clicking rapidly in agitation. This species evolved through millennia of intraspecies competition. They mastered cooperation and betrayal simultaneously. Their literature celebrates both their noblest sacrifices and their most cunning deceptions. The crystalline Exoni counselor's facets glittered with dismissive light patterns. Your emotional attachment to your human subjects has compromised your judgment, Ambassador. You believe this is mere attachment? Tizek's translator rendered his agitated clicks into urgent tones. They cannot be confronted with conventional tactics because they have been fighting themselves in endless variations for their entire existence. 18 months after the first diaspora ships departed, The colony vessel New Horizons suffered catastrophic engine failure in deep space, beyond any possibility of rescue. Confederation prediction models gave the crew zero chance of survival. 6 months later, an Axoni observation fleet discovered the impossible. The colonists had cannibalized 70% of their vessel to create a closed ecosystem settlement embedded in an asteroid belt. Not only had they survived, but they had established mining operations and rudimentary manufacturing while maintaining a full hydroponics bay and educational system for their children. The most shocking human adaptation appeared when an Axoni science vessel detected human life signs on Tarsonis IV, a toxic moon classified as utterly uncolonizable centuries earlier. Under the caustic purple skies, humans worked the mineral-rich surface wearing minimal protection. Medical scans revealed the impossible. The colonists had undergone voluntary genetic modification, integrating DNA from local extremophile organisms to process the toxic atmosphere. The Axoni commander recorded in his report, where Confederation species would require massive technological infrastructure to survive, humans modified themselves instead, a physiological self-alteration our species would consider abhorrent. What the report failed to note, the Tarsonis Adaptation Program had a waiting list of eager volunteers. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't just adaptability, it was willingness to change. Where Confederation species evolved specialized perfection over millions of years, humans embraced radical transformation over decades. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. The seeds of humanity were taking root in the cosmic wilderness, and they were already beginning to flower in unexpected forms. 20 years after first contact, humanity had transformed from quarantined primitives to a dispersed adaptable force throughout the galaxy. The scattered colonies developed unique specializations born of necessity: atmospheric adaptation on Tarsonis IV, gravitational engineering in the Cygnus dense belt, biotech integration on humid New Terra Nova. But unlike the rigid evolutionary paths of Confederation species, humans shared innovations freely between settlements. In the massive, hollow asteroid designated Liberty Point, Dr. Eleanor Chen stood before the first assembly of the Human Alliance. Her face now lined with age, but her eyes still sharp. She surveyed representatives from 86 colonies, some appearing in person, hundreds more joining via hologram, their appearances as varied as the worlds they inhabited. Some had skin, modified for high radiation environments. Others displayed subtle adaptations to different gravities or atmospheric compositions. All remained unmistakably human in their core identity, yet remarkably diverse in their adaptations. "Today we become stronger together," Chen announced, holding up a small device that pulsed with quantum light. The Nexus goes live. The decentralized knowledge-sharing network she had developed used entangled quantum particles to instantaneously transmit information between human settlements, completely circumventing and invisible to Confederation communication channels. With a simple command, humanity became connected across impossible distances. From this moment, an innovation on Epsilon, Eridani can be implemented on Tau Ceti before the day ends, Chen explained as applause filled the chamber. We are no longer isolated survivors. We are humanity unified. Within months, the true potential of the human mind emerged on a galactic scale. Cross-disciplinary thinking. Where Confederation species evolved deep but narrow expertise over millions of years, humans gleefully mixed and matched approaches from different disciplines. Terraforming techniques from Venus were combined with Martian low-gravity agriculture and alien biochemistry to create entirely new sciences. Technological innovations accelerated at a pace that transformed Confederation concern to outright alarm. Our observation posts detect unprecedented technological advancement across human settlements, the Axoni High Counselor reported to the Confederation Security Council. Their development curve has entered exponential growth. The holographic display showed human colonies sharing scientific breakthroughs at rates no Confederation species could match. Worse, the innovations themselves were unpredictable, combining concepts no rational species would think to connect. "We must escalate containment immediately," urged a Zel Narai admiral. Before any decision could be reached, An urgent communication interrupted the council session. The lush ecosphere of Taraxis 9 was collapsing following Confederation mining operations. The native Vulcan, a peaceful philosopher species, faced extinction as their specialized biology could not adapt to the rapidly changing environment. Our experts predict a century-long rehabilitation process, the environmental assessment concluded grimly. The Vulcan population will not survive the transition. In desperation, the Vulcan Prime leader bypassed protocol entirely, reaching out directly to the nearby human settlement on Barnard Star III. The Confederation Council watched in stunned silence as the diplomatic logs revealed a human team arriving with a radical solution, implementing techniques from Earth's darkest times. These are the climate recovery protocols developed after the environmental wars of the 2040s, explained the human scientist to the doubtful Vulcan. When we nearly destroyed our own world, we learned how to heal it. Using genetically modified organisms, nanoremediation, and atmospheric seeding techniques perfected through humanity's own near extinction, they accomplished in 3 years what Confederation experts deemed impossible. As Taraxis 9 bloomed again and the grateful Vulcan survived, humanity gained what technology could never buy: true allies. When word spread of the Taraxis miracle, younger Confederation species began questioning the wisdom of their elders. The Masori of Rigel 5 openly requested human assistance with their failing orbital habitats. The aquatic Drell invited human engineers to consult on their deep-water cities. Whispers spread through Confederation space of a new order forming at the galaxy's edges, one that valued innovation over stability, adaptation over tradition. Humanity had become the knowledge brokers of the galaxy, and knowledge was a currency the ancient powers could no longer control. The Confederation capital, World Axon Prime, glittered with crystalline spires that had stood unchanged for 50,000 years. Inside the forbidden inner sanctum, the crystalline conclave, 7 ancient Axoni who had ruled the Confederation since its inception, convened an emergency session for the first time in millennia. The human infection spreads, Elder Psych announced, his facets refracting light in patterns of urgency. The holographic galaxy map before them showed human influence glowing like a virus, spreading along trade routes and expanding beyond physical settlements. Nearly 40% of member species now traded openly with humans, ignoring Axoni directives. We have lost control of the narrative, Elder Vax added, crystalline structures vibrating with concern. The younger races question our guidance. The central, crystal matrix, the true mind of the conclave, pulsed with data streams revealing the Axoni's true agenda. Evolutionary stagnation had left the oldest Confederation species unable to compete with humanity's rapid adaptation. For 50,000 years they had subtly suppressed younger species, culling those who evolved too quickly, maintaining their dominance through controlled technological progression. Initiate the final protocol, Elder Senk commanded. The human threat must be eliminated before it fundamentally destabilizes galactic order. In the burnt-out husk of a Confederation research station orbiting a nameless moon, Colonel Morrow, now in his 70s with an advanced prosthetic body, bypassed the final security protocol. His modified Confederation arm, now more machine than flesh, interfaced directly with the alien system. "I'm in," he transmitted to Dr. Chen through their secure Nexus connection. "Downloading archives now." What he discovered confirmed their darkest suspicions. Holographic records revealed the systematic elimination of 12 adaptive species throughout Confederation history, each bearing striking similarities to humanity: rapid learning, cross-specialty innovation, and unpredictable development patterns. The most recent, the Vran, were deemed a threat just 5,000 years ago. Their civilization rising and falling so quickly, most current Confederation species had no record of their existence. Now they survived only in archived DNA samples preserved as curiosities. Humanity isn't the first threat to their order, Morrow realized. We're simply the first to fight back successfully. When the Axoni launched their final solution against Human settlements, they expected either surrender or conventional resistance. 7 massive fleet groups targeted the largest human colonies simultaneously, armed with planet-killer weapons that could render worlds permanently uninhabitable. Instead, they faced the full spectrum of human ingenuity, refined by 20 years of preparation. Solar mirrors assembled in secret blinded their sensors. Weaponized sound frequencies targeting their crystalline biology shattered Exoni commanders from within. Human ships piloted by volunteers who accepted certain death, executed maneuvers that killed their crews but achieved impossible attack angles. The most chilling moment for Confederation observers came during the Battle of Proxima Centauri. The human destroyer Sacrifice, critically damaged and doomed, broadcast its final moments. Instead of panic or surrender, the ship's AI recorded, the crew voting to use their remaining engine power to intercept an Exoni planet killer headed for a populated world. The needs of the many, the captain said simply before impact. Their sacrifice saved millions, demonstrating humanity's most terrifying quality, the willingness to sacrifice individual lives for collective victory, a concept alien to species, evolved for self-preservation above all. Yet more shocking to the Confederation was what followed. As the battle subsided in the Arcturus sector, human medics broke through defensive lines, not to attack but to rescue injured Exoni officers from damaged ships. The same species capable of suicidal battle tactics showed impossible compassion, treating wounded enemies with the same care as their own. For species that evolved with binary concepts of ally or enemy, this human duality was incomprehensible. They fight like demons and heal like angels, a captured Zel-Narai commander reported in confusion. How can one species contain such contradiction? The question went unanswered as the galaxy descended further into war. The most ancient species in the Confederation now faced an enemy they couldn't categorize or predict, one that had been dismissed, overlooked, and underestimated until it was too late. Aboard the Exoni command ship Eternal Dominion, the 7 crystalline elders gathered around a pulsing quantum device, their desperate final solution. The cascading quantum disruption would rewrite fundamental laws of physics across the galactic core, eliminating all advanced life, including themselves, rather than cede dominance to humans. We have seen their pattern before, Elder Sai intoned, crystalline facets reflecting the device's ominous glow. They will become the tyrants we have been, but worse, unpredictable ones. As the activation sequence began its countdown, the ship's systems suddenly failed. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows across the crystalline council chamber. On every screen across their vessel, across their entire fleet, a single human face appeared. Dr. Chen, now in her 70s, her eyes reflecting both determination and compassion. Before you destroy everything, she said simply, experience what you fear. Using the Nexus network and technology smuggled aboard Confederation ships by allied species, Chen's team initiated what they'd named Operation Empathy, a simultaneous broadcast of human consciousness across species barriers, something never before attempted in galactic history. For 13 crucial minutes, every connected being in Confederation space experienced human thoughts, emotions, and memories. The broadcast wasn't curated propaganda, but the raw truth of humanity. The wonder of childbirth alongside the horror of warfare, the transcendent beauty of Mozart interwoven with the cruel persecution of minorities. Moments of heartbreaking sacrifice, juxtaposed with selfish cruelty. For the first time, the galaxy experienced the human condition, not as an abstract threat but as lived reality, with all its contradictions and potential. The transmission culminated in humanity's proposal, a new galactic covenant where knowledge flowed freely, where no species, human or otherwise, held dominance, and where diversity of thought was recognized as evolutionary strength rather than dangerous unpredictability. As the broadcast ended, the quantum device remained poised for activation. The galaxy held its breath. Elder Sykes's crystalline form trembled visibly, the first emotional display ever witnessed from an Exoni, as they experienced something their species abandoned millennia ago: doubt. You could still become the monsters we fear, the elder whispered. Yes, Chen replied simply. And we could become wonderful beyond imagining. That uncertainty is the price of true growth. We will guard against our darker nature if you will remember how to embrace change. 5 years later, the gleaming spires of the Multiversal Academy rose from what was once the battleground of Geneva. Students from across the galaxy, including the first Axoni scholars in 50,000 years, gathered to study humanity's approach to problem-solving alongside the deep wisdom of ancient species. In a quiet garden, Ambassador Tizek, now a respected liaison between old and new galactic orders, sat with Dr. Chen, both now in the twilight of their lives. The Confederation's greatest mistake, he admitted, mandibles clicking in what humans now recognized as rueful amusement, was seeing adaptation as dangerous rather than necessary. We feared change until we met a species that showed us how to embrace it. On a balcony above them, Colonel Morrow, his consciousness preserved in a partly mechanical body, watched a mixed group of human and alien children playing an improvised game whose rules seemed to change by the minute. The sight brought rare tears to his artificial eyes. We were overlooked, he murmured, until we became their greatest threat. And then we became something better, their greatest hope. The final image showed a galactic map in the Academy's Grand Hall, where humanity's presence had spread like stars igniting in the darkness. But unlike the conquering empires of human history, or the stagnant dominion of the old Confederation, each point of human light was surrounded by a constellation of alien civilizations, all growing brighter together. A galaxy where adaptation and stability had found their balance at last. The species that had been dismissed as insignificant had become not the tyrants they were feared to be, but something far more valuable, the disruptive innovation the galaxy needed to evolve.